Some histories are so cruel and heart-wrenching that they are not merely stories of ancient battles. They are proofs of human suffering and social injustice. One such story is that of Umelia, a 26-year-old woman at the fall of Mantinea in 421 BCE. Widowed, with 3 children, she witnessed her city's destruction, hiding amidst the ruins, hearing the sounds of war and death, knowing her city had fallen into Spartan hands. Umelia's story is not just one of personal grief. It is a lens to examine Spartan military power and their systematic governance of conquered populations. When Spartan soldiers took the remaining inhabitants, men were executed or enslaved as Helots, the elderly and children separated, and women, like Umelia, were singled out for specific fates. Here we see the depth of Spartan oppression. Women were not only exploited as laborers, but also controlled reproductively and socially to erase the culture of conquered populations. Understanding Spartan society is essential to grasp why and how they targeted women. Unlike other Greek city-states, Sparta was entirely oriented toward warfare. While Athens developed democracy, philosophy, and arts, Sparta existed solely for warfare. Their society was structured around military training, civic duty, and social control. Spartan boys were taken from their families at age 7 to enter the agoge, a harsh training program instilling discipline, martial skill, and self-sacrifice. Weak or disabled children were often abandoned. Spartan women had comparatively more freedom than women elsewhere in Greece, but captured women and Helots lived entirely under the state's control. This framework makes clear why Sparta systematically targeted women of conquered cities. With men killed or enslaved, women became crucial to both labor and reproduction, ensuring the control and continuation of Spartan dominance. After the fall of Mantinea, Umelia and other women were brought into Spartan territory. Some were assigned to agricultural labor, others to domestic service. Helot women were more than workers. They were also instruments for controlling the birth of the next generation. Children born to Helot women became Helots themselves, perpetuating a cycle of servitude. Life as a Helot was both physically grueling and psychologically oppressive. Helots greatly outnumbered Spartan citizens, so fear and constant repression were necessary. The cryptia, a ritual in which young Spartans were sent to kill strong or potentially rebellious Helots, was part of this system. Women were sometimes targets, creating an environment where any display of independence could be lethal. Alongside physical labor, Helot women were subjected to sexual exploitation. Children born under such circumstances became reminders of oppression, reinforcing the intergenerational cycle of control. Not all captured women were laborers. Women of higher status were often selected for forced marriages or reproductive arrangements. This process aimed to destroy enemy social structures. Prominent women were publicly humiliated to assert dominance, control future generations. Children raised as Spartans could not perpetuate the conquered culture. Induce psychological distress. Women endured separation from families and lost communities, reinforcing submission. For women like Umelia, this meant living in a household of her conquerors, raising children who would serve Spartan interests, and performing domestic duties while carrying private grief and trauma. Survival required adapting to unbearable circumstances, forming attachments, and finding private ways to preserve identity. Yet it did not equate to happiness. Spartan employed ritualized public humiliation as another tool of control. Captured women were stripped of noble attire, paraded publicly, and displayed as symbols of Spartan victory. Spartan women also participated, taunting the captives to reinforce their own social superiority. These practices served multiple purposes: instilling fear in conquered cities, ensuring control over captured women and children, strengthening Spartan identity, and demonstrating their military and social dominance. The Messenian Wars exemplify Spartan cruelty. In the 8th and 7th centuries BCE, after prolonged warfare, the Messenians were entirely subjugated. Women were reduced to Helot status, children born into servitude, and cultural traditions suppressed. For centuries, Messenians remained under Spartan control, with periodic killings and the cruelty preventing rebellion. During the Peloponnesian War, 431 to 405 BCE, and subsequent conflicts, the same patterns persisted. Captured women were enslaved, forcibly married, and exploited to ensure Spartan political and social dominance. These practices sent a clear message: Sparta was powerful, and resistance carried devastating consequences. Spartans justified their domination through religious ideology. Claiming descent from Heracles, they saw conquest as divinely ordained. Subjugating conquered populations, including women, was framed as fulfilling divine will, not as cruelty. Sexual exploitation or reproductive control was considered a duty, maintaining a social order sanctioned by the gods. This illustrates how state power, combined with religious ideology, can normalize extreme cruelty and integrate it into societal norms. Long-term effects, personal and societal. For Umelia, identity loss or permanent damage, complex relationships with children born under captivity, lifelong grief, trauma, and intergenerational psychological scars. For Sparta, constant vigilance required to prevent Helot rebellion. Small citizen population, limited military and political flexibility. Widespread resentment among conquered populations contributed to eventual decline. Lessons from history. Spartans' conquests were not merely military. They represented systematic oppression, gendered control, and cultural erasure. Women's suffering created deep intergenerational trauma. Empires relying purely on force are fragile. Similar patterns recur throughout history, including colonization and modern conflicts. Umelia, Messenian women, and countless other captured women remind us that the history of war is not just the story of victors. They were human beings with love, grief, and dignity. Their experiences must be remembered to understand both historical oppression and the human cost of conquest. Spartans' military power and the systematic cruelty inflicted on women are inseparable. This history provides crucial lessons about human rights, gendered violence, and the fragility of power based solely on fear and oppression. In summary, the analysis shows Spartan conquest was a combination of warfare, gendered oppression, and cultural domination. The fate of captured women was, quote, worse than death, end quote, involving physical, social, and psychological suffering. Spartan ideology and religion rationalized extreme cruelty. These practices offered short-term military advantage, but long-term instability. Such patterns are historically recurrent, offering lessons for contemporary human rights. The story of Umelia is not only a tale of ancient history, but also a lesson in human resilience, memory, and the moral cost of power.